Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and we're going to do something a little bit different today, and I want to encourage you to be a part of it, okay? We're going to air an interview that I had with Dr. Alex McFarland about a week ago. He teaches Christian Worldview and Apologetics at North Greenville University. He does travel around the country and speak and does seminars. But we covered a variety of topics as it relates to today's culture and some of the issues that we're all concerned about. We did talk a little bit about the Duck Dynasty controversy and as well. But I want you to listen to this interview because I thought his tone and his explanation on some of these issues that we're all concerned about was very well done. And then when we're done talking to Dr. McFarland, we're going to open up the phone lines and give you a chance to join the conversation as well. So you may want to jot the phone number down now. It's 541-776-5368. Again, that's 541-776-5368. And if you're outside the immediate Medford area, up and down the Southern Oregon coastline, Northern California, Klamath Basin, watching on television, on Roku, whatever, you're welcome to join the conversation as well. And that's 1-800-373-5368. Again, that's toll-free, 800-373-5368. Join me now as we talk to Dr. Alex McFarland. Something that I actually witnessed. I was watching the O'Reilly Factor, the Bill O'Reilly, the day that he tried to explain away Phil Robertson's statements concerning homosexuality. And I'm watching this show and I'm saying to myself, Bill, you got it totally wrong. And yet his arrogance, he seemed to push through as if he was the final arbiter on the topic and let it hang out there. And I, quite frankly, was fairly disgusted. I got as far as sitting down to the computer to write Bill O'Reilly an email, but I didn't, Alex. Maybe I should have. But I was, quite frankly, I was very disgusted. Did you see it?
Yeah, I was. And yeah, it makes me squirm in my chair as well when any and all disagreement with homosexuality is dismissed as mere simple homophobia. Yeah. And so I wrote an article, and I've spoken on this in a number of places, but I really appreciate you taking some time to kind of unpack this and address this with me.
Well, I do want to get into it because the other part of what Bill O'Reilly has done here is really the problem that a lot of people do. They cut and paste the Bible to say what they want it to say, and then they have the audacity to interpret it as the truth. And he's clearly used the power of his show to convey that, and I was, quite frankly, disgusted.
Well, let me say this. There is such a thing in the world of broadcasting as media training. And if you go through media training by professional publicists and people that work with politicians and corporate leaders, and let me say I've over the last 20 years had my share of media training as well. You need to understand this, folks, that talking heads on television and pundits and commentators and certainly politicians and often CEOs of businesses, they are trained to answer whatever question they want to answer. Let me say this. If you're in a hostile media situation or a hostile interview situation, the publicist will tell you, regardless of the question, you answer the question you want to answer. Now, let me say this. For those, when Christians come along and we say that abortion is wrong, or homosexuality is wrong, or Jesus is the one Savior and Islam is a false religion, and then we are told that we're, anti-freedom, or we're heterosexist, or we're Islamophobic. Sometimes people dismiss our content out of ignorance, but oftentimes, like a Bill O'Reilly, or one of the other talking heads on television that dismiss a Phil Robertson as being homophobic, and they never address their arguments or their content. Let me say, they know exactly what they're doing. They're completely dodging the content, and they're just painting with a broad brush and falsely accusing any voices of dissent as being fear. And it's not that way at all. In the case of Phil Robertson and Duck Dynasty, there was no indication whatsoever that his remarks were made out of fear or phobia. And I wrote an article that's floating around the internet now on 5 what I call extra biblical reasons that homosexuality is wrong. But we've got to address this pervasive accusation that any and all voices of dissent against the homosexual juggernaut and the well-funded, well-organized homosexual publicity machine, that it's homophobia. It's in some people's lives it might be, but certainly in the case of the great Christian thinkers of the world, it is not.
Well, Alex, the response in support of Phil Robertson was historic, and if not, and I think we missed a point as Christians to celebrate the fact that he basically won this thing, and and it got pushed to the side. But the only thing he did was say what the Bible says, and he got criticized for it. And when I watched Bill O'Reilly pull out other scriptures about don't judge unless you want to be judged to slam him down, I thought, boy, this guy really missed a point. But at the end of the day, Phil Robertson won the argument.
He really did. He really did. And, you know, for once, and maybe this will be the trend of many other victories, the gay, lesbian, transgender publicity machine got their hat handed to them, right, because there was a groundswell of support. As you may well remember, the Cracker Barrel people, right, Cracker Barrel restaurants, right, that were going to take all the Duck Dynasty merchandise off their shelves in about 24 hours, issued a public apology. And let me just say to everyone listening, what this illustrates is there is still a remnant of people, in fact, I would say more than a remnant, the majority, that believe in moral absolutes. Mm-hmm. And let me say, we believe in heterosexual monogamy and morality, not because we were force-fed it, but because it's written on the human heart. It's written on the human heart, and that's why the Bible calls it self-evident, undeniable truth, because we know right from wrong. We just don't always act on it or defend it. But yeah, Phil Robertson won this, and there was a groundswell because there is still human beings know right from wrong, and all the conditioning in the world, all the enforced pluralism of the public schools and a left-wing media, and all of the government pandering to the homosexual lobby because of elected officials that really don't have the moral backbone to stand for truth. All of the propaganda of 40 years is not going to change the fact that human beings in their heart have the law of God written there, and we know right from wrong.
Boy, that's beautifully said. Do you think that the constitutional right of freedom of religion and freedom of speech got hurt as a result of this case with Phil Robertson?
Well, I would say that the constitutional rights, the constitutionally protected right to freedom of religion and the free expression of religion has been eroded for years. The rights of Christians have been up for grabs for years. And, you know, we've got to remind people, and I think we're a couple of generations into folks who need to know this. Listen, friends, America is a pluralistic country in the sense of you're free to believe what you want to believe. You don't want to believe in God? Fine, don't believe in God. You want to engage in aberrant sexual behavior behind closed doors? Okay. But here's the thing. Our nation, 238 years ago now, our nation was founded from a biblical worldview. And when our elected officials defend the Judeo-Christian worldview that birthed America, they are not violating the First Amendment. Let me say this. Now, follow me, folks. Fisher Ames, that wrote the First Amendment, said also that the Bible should be taught in all public schools because that is the best vehicle for teaching young people morality. Now, those that would cry, well, if you defend heterosexual monogamy as the norm, if you defend traditional Judeo-Christian morality, the Ten Commandments, then you're somehow violating the First Amendment. Here's my point. How is it that 21st century secularists know more about the application of the First Amendment than the man who wrote the First Amendment? If you want America you've got to have morality. If you want morality, you've got to have religion. And if you want to preserve what we've had for nearly 2.5 centuries, we have to understand that it was the biblical worldview that gave us America. Now, to those listening that might be atheist or agnostic or transgender or pro-homosexual, let me say, you want to be an atheist? Go for it. You want to be a homosexual? Go for it. But do not tear down the very context that gives you the freedom not to be a Christian. And it was Christianity that gave us America. And as we tear down the foundation that this nation has rested on for 2 centuries plus, and in fact the Western world, the home, the family, traditional marriage, as the gay lobby has demanded not only that they have the freedom to be gay, but that the rest of the culture must endorse and embrace and affirm. And indeed, if you don't celebrate homosexuality the way they do, you're homophobic, you're a hater, you're somehow denying them their constitutional rights. Listen, there's no right in the Constitution to redefine marriage. There's no right, there's no constitutionally protected right to tear down the moral structure that gave us this nation. And again, we're free in the sense, you believe what you want to believe, but don't tear down the very worldview that gave you the freedom not to believe in God or not to be moral. If you want to be immoral, but don't tear down the milieu that gave you that freedom,
wow,
which has been America.
Alex, that is spectacular. That's inspiring. Let me take a break. We'll be right back. Dr. Alex McFarland is with us today, and I want to get into his new book, 10 Issues That Divide Christians. We'll talk a little bit about that as well when we return.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Okay, we're back, and our special guest today, Dr. Alex McFarland, and he's a professor of Christian Worldview and Apologetics there at the North Greenville University, and radio talk show host, author, speaker. I think he's all over the place, and I like to call him friend because I just love his spirit and what he does. And today we're talking about a variety of things. And I want to get into your new book, Alex, but before I do, I want to finish up with this Duck Dynasty, Phil Robertson / Bill O'Reilly. I find it interesting that Bill O'Reilly didn't get the pushback that A&E did because he got it so wrong. He was so wrong with it and so arrogant about being wrong with it. And he has the audacity to go on and then push his book of killing Jesus. I mean, the combination of that it was more than I could handle.
Well, there's a lot on the Bill O'Reilly show that I do like, and I would really love to be on his program sometime and debate with him about some of these issues.
Yeah, I wish you could.
Oh, well, maybe God will open that door at some point. But we've gotten. Let me say it this way, friends. To say that there is morality and it's tied to the nature of God. And since God doesn't change, what's right and wrong doesn't change. That's a bitter pill for a lot of people to swallow. But I would say to draw a line in the sand and say, as we've been saying, look, there is an objective, universal right and wrong. And if you don't want to acknowledge it, fair enough. You'll answer to God for that one day. But don't abolish morality in your quest, and let me just say this, I've been in the people business a long time.
Go ahead, man.
The homosexual lobby to legitimize and mainstream homosexual behavior, to mainstream gay marriage, and to redefine the family. All this is about is helping people assuage a guilty conscience and helping millions of people feel good about something deep in their heart they know is wrong. Now, if you want to be immoral, go for it. That's between you and God. But as I said, don't tear down morality that gives you the freedom not to be moral. Now, here's what I would say to the O'Reillys of the world. To say that there is morality and there is God, that's a bitter pill to swallow for some people. But I would submit to you that that is a less bitter pill than the pill we're about to swallow, which is societal chaos, which is the loss of our Constitution, which is the loss of our freedoms and our liberties. And I've got to say this, my friend, if 2014 had been 1776, we would not have an America. We have an America today because there was some women and men that were willing to say, look, right is right, wrong is wrong, there's a God, and we're going to stand up for what we know is true, and we may be killed, we might be imprisoned by the British. That's why on the Declaration of Independence they wrote, appealing to God for the rectitude of our intentions. Now, friends, everyone listening, you need to tell your pastor to preach righteousness. You need to write to your elected officials and say, hey, senator, congressman, governor, city council member, school board member, we love you. I'm praying for you. But if you go wrong, we will see to it at the next election that someone is installed who will stand for what's right. It's a bitter pill to swallow to stand for truth, but that's a less bitter pill than the one we're about to ingest, which is the loss of our nation, the loss of our freedoms, and absolutely societal chaos and ultimately bondage in the days ahead if we don't again get the courage and the righteous fire to stand up for truth. And that means standing against error, which includes the well-funded, well-organized, 4-decade-plus lobby for homosexuality that has infiltrated now the classroom, the media, the arts, the judiciary, the government, and even in some cases the church.
Wow. I just can't even express it any better than you just did. Over to your book, 10 Issues That Divide Christians. It appears that some of these issues that are not only dividing us as a culture and as a people and as a country, they're now dividing the church. We're seeing even churches now say, I'm rethinking this homosexual thing, maybe it's not so bad. We're seeing the pluralization of the church. How can we turn things around if we ourselves are divided?
That's a great question. And while we're talking about things that have to be said, let me say there is a real devil. Satan is real. And Satan has had some good innings in recent years. I mean, he's gotten the church divided on some key things that the Bible has spoken clearly about. And I wrote this book, The 10 Issues That Divide Christians, and I talk about abortion, homosexuality, gay marriage, the environment, the role of religion in politics. And I talk about American exceptionalism and talk about some things that I think Christians really ought to know where they stand on. And I got to say that I know where I stand because I know where the Bible stands. And again, the Bible is a book shown to be inspired, trustworthy, by compelling lines of evidence. By the way, the 10 Issues That Divide Christians, that's my 15th book. And in a number of my other books, The 10 Most Common Objections to Christianity and How to Answer Them, and my Stand series that I wrote with Tyndale and a number of others. I wrote a book for parents on answering the toughest questions your children have about God. But I've in depth unpacked a lot of the evidence, history, archaeology, the manuscripts, so many reasons that we can trust the Bible. And I would be happy to come to anyone listening, I'll come to your church and speak. I'll debate your local atheist. Call me. My website is at alexmcfarland.com. But the reason we, the church, are divided on these fundamental issues is because we live in a culture of biblical illiteracy. And even those within Christendom, think about this. There are supposedly 173 million Christians in America. Mm-hmm. And if we were biblically informed, if we were disciples of Jesus and committed to obey the Lord, period, it would look like a really different America, wouldn't it?
It sure would, and you would change any election.
Oh, hey, folks, we've got the numbers. I mean, the Phil Robertson outcry, and suddenly A&E backpedaled, and Cracker Barrel and Barnes & Noble that was going to blow out all the Duck Dynasty merchandise, and everybody changed their tune right quick. Listen, for the issues that matter, support of our Constitution, limited government, repeal of this communist medicine called Obamacare, this communist health plan, repeal of the Sharia encroachment that's happening in many communities, defense of traditional marriage, support for the state of Israel, any of the things that matter to conservatives and any of the things that our founders would have stood for. Look, we could swing any election we wanted,
right, exactly,
if Christians would register to vote and then vote from a biblically informed perspective.
Yeah, as they say, vote your values and value your vote. How can people get a copy of this book, Alex?
Well, praise God, it's published by Regal Books of Ventura, California, 10 Issues That Divide Christians. It's available, online. My online store is at alexmcfarland.com, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local Christian bookstores, which I encourage you to support. You name it, you can find it.
Okay. All right, so do you think the church now is beginning, you do a lot of speaking in churches, and do you sense a pushback now that maybe we've allowed this to go too far and maybe the Christian community is starting to wake up and we have to get involved to save our country?
The fires are starting. Moments before this interview for which I'm very grateful, I got a call from Mississippi. A group wants me to come. I'll be in California in a few weeks at the California Baptist Convention is having an evangelism conference. I mean, I'm seeing some sparks, but here's the thing we've got to overcome, this, what I call a false dichotomy, that my faith, my religion is in one box, but politics is in a completely separate box. We've got to understand that Christians must be politically informed and politically engaged. And there's a young generation, the millennials, people that are, say, 29 and younger, they, to a large degree, have zero interest in politics. And let me say it's because of a couple of things. It's because of they've grown up in churches that were absolutely silent on the moral issues like abortion and the defense of marriage. And also then they've been, conditioned to believe that a disciple is just to love Jesus and wait till we die and go to heaven one day. No, a disciple is also to fight for righteousness, stand for truth, even when it's not popular or not convenient. And so we've got to, again, understand that our calling is to be salt and light. Now, we've got the light part. Let's be a witness for the gospel. But we've got to be salt. And salt is a preservative. And if we, well, Benjamin Franklin said this. He said, everybody loves the fruits of freedom, but few people are willing to tend the tree that bears the fruits. Wow. And so young people listening, and maybe not so young, it's time to get back in the fray. And our mission is not just to hunker down, wring our hands, and wait for Christ to come back. He is coming back, but until he does, we better hold the line and stand for truth and even defend truth, which is going to mean taking some public stances that may cost us some popularity points. We got to be more interested in following Jesus, saving souls, and saving a nation rather than our social batting average, and stand for truth, popular or not. And when you get to heaven and God says, well done, you will know it was so worth it.
Oh, wow. thank you, Alex. I value greatly your time and look forward to having you back often. Keep up the good work, and you can go to alexmcfarland.com and check out his material and look for his new book in the Christian bookstores at Evangel and elsewhere, 10 Issues That Divide Christians. Thank you, my friend. God bless. Keep up the good work, will you?
Bless you. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, we're going to open up the phone lines coming up next and give you a chance to maybe comment on some of the things that he said, because, boy, there's a lot there. And we would like to hear from you. What are you thinking about these things? What's on your mind? What do you feel led to be involved in? Our phone number is 541-776-5368. That's the local number, 541-776-5368. And then the toll-free number is 1-800-373-5368. We'll take your phone calls when we come back.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Okay, welcome back. And for the next remaining part of the program today, we're going to open up the phone lines. We'd love to hear from you. And maybe you want to comment on some of the things that Alex and I were talking about. Maybe there are some other things on your mind you'd like to share. Kind of a little bit of a open line Friday. The local number in and around the immediate Medford area is 541-776-5368. And if you're outside the immediate Medford area, up and down the southern Oregon coast, Northern California, over in the Klamath Basin, maybe you're watching on Roku in another state, you're welcome to join us. The toll-free number is 1-800-373-5368. Again, 800-373-5368. Let me go to Betty, because she's been waiting for quite a while. We'll take her phone call, and then we'll come back and I'll make some comments. And let's see. I think you guys are going to have to help me switch those in there. And we lost her. I apologize. One of those technical things. So, Betty, please call back. Let me just say this. Here are some of the issues that a lot of people will ask us to cover, or will be critical that we're not covering enough and we don't spend more time on it. But these are the issues that here, when we begin to arrange guests and programs, that we are watching. Evangelism, abortion, persecution of the church and of Christians, traditional marriage, homelessness, education, which is big today, politics, obviously, voter registration, about the current administration and its opposition to Christian values, constitutional violation, Obamacare, just to mention a few things. And so what is our response to these issues as believers? Maybe your plate's overloaded and you can't take any more. Anyway, those are some of the things that Alex and I talked about. All right, let's see if I can do this without too much of a problem. Let's see if we can get Betty on the phone. Betty, I'm sorry about that. Thanks for calling back. What's on your mind?
Hi, Perry. Thank you for taking my call. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I am in the car. And I didn't get to hear a lot of the program, but I've heard Alex before. I just wanted to encourage people to get to know what the Constitution says, because we are ignorant as a nation to know what our rights are. There is a class in Grants Pass that's free on Saturday at noon at the Grange Co-op corner of Redwood Avenue and Dowell, and I would like to encourage the listeners to go to it.
Okay. And starting when? Saturday at what time?
It's at noon, and it's an hour-and-a-half class. John Chambers is a teacher, but it's very interactive with a lot of people discussing different issues. And I think this is like the third time he's going through the Constitution. He has been a teacher in the public schools on teaching government and stuff, and so it's been really informative, and it's really taught me so much on what the government is allowed to do and what they're overstepping their boundaries, and we are not stepping up as people to say what our rights are and what we're supposed to be doing. Benjamin Franklin said he's given us a republic if we can keep it, which means we
well said. Thank you, Betty.
Thank you so much, Perry.
You bet.
God bless.
All right, let's go to Earl. We'll check in. Again, our phone number is 541-776-5368. And if you want to join the conversation. Hi, Earl. Thanks for waiting. What's on your mind?
Good morning. I have 2 points. The first one is, if the Christians would invite their friends, family, and neighbors to church and remind them to read their Bible, that would have a great effect on America. And the second one is it's good to know the federal Constitution, but even more important, the state Constitution, because you live your life within the state, and the state is really has more to do with normal people living their lives than the federal government does. And so it's important to know your state Constitution and to know the limits of the federal powers and the state powers. And there is a federal document written in 1957. It's called The Limitations of Federal Jurisdiction. And you'll find in that document, written by the federal government, that legislative acts of the federal government do not apply within the exterior borders of the state. It's on PDF. You can read it. Google it. You can read it for yourself. But the most important thing is inviting your friends, family, and neighbors to church and remind them to read their Bible.
All right. Thank you, Earl. All right, it's 541-776-5368 if you want to join the conversation. 541-776-5368 or toll free 1-800-373-5368. What I'm sensing here is that people are becoming concerned that something is wrong. And our first 2 phone calls indicate that we haven't paid much attention to our constitutions, whether it's the state constitution or the federal constitution. And what do they say and what do they mean? Is it still we the people? And what we're sensing now that the government has overstepped its powers. And what can we do about it? There's a saying that is quite true, and that is the power of the people is more powerful than the people in power. Let me say that again. The power of the people is more powerful than the people in power. But we don't seem to think that much. It's a delicate thing to balance what you believe and what you see going wrong. And what is the role of the believer in both of these? Yes, we are to be strong in our faith, and we are to be strong and involved in contributing citizens. And what happens so often, we don't get involved in something until we are directly affected by it ourselves. I think the whole abortion issue is a clear example of that. People who have been led down the path of an abortion, excuse me, and then woke up and realized what they had done, ended up being the strongest advocates to stop abortion across the country. And so goes the case with anything that's going on today. You probably don't really get involved in it until it touches your life, and when it does, you really get involved in it, and rightfully so. But now we're faced with something in this country that's very interesting, and that is, are we prepared as believers to pray about it? Are we prepared to seek divine intervention into the United States? We are dangerously close to losing what our freedoms are all about. I've often said there's 3 stages you go through. The first stage is shock and awe. You're in shock and awe of the boldness of those who oppose freedom and certainly the freedom of speech and the freedom of religion. And you're in shock and awe that we have an administration that seems to be so anti-American. The second stage you go through is anger and blame. You get very upset about something and you want to blame somebody. And this is a typical reaction and a healthy reaction, but it also can be a very unhealthy reaction if you stay there. There's plenty of blame to go around. There's plenty of anger to go around. I am upset. You're upset. Everybody's upset about something, and they want their thing to be the dominant thing. And then they get upset with me because I don't cover it the way they want us to cover it. They want more attention given to their concern than all of the concerns that we're looking at. Just one of the things that we do it. So we do go through that stage of anger and blame. We get upset and we want to blame somebody. It's their fault. It's that guy. It's this administration. It's that group, this group. it's that pastor, they're not teaching it right, they're not saying it right. And if we're not careful, we stay there. And that's where the enemy does his best work, because he can divide and conquer if we stay there. And then the third stage you go through is personal responsibility. It's where you realize you probably can't change it all, but you can change yourself and about how you respond to it and how you're going to get involved and where God may have you serve. Maybe God's calling you to serve at the Gospel Mission or Hearts with the Mission or Youth for Christ or over at the Pregnancy Center. Maybe you can serve in helping the homeless. Maybe you can serve in working with voter registration and things like that. These are areas that you could, if you look at it and you say, I'm just one person, I can't solve the whole thing. No, you can't. But you can go where God's calling you to go and get involved in the things that God's calling you to get involved in it and serve it wholeheartedly. Just don't stay in the anger and blame stage. And I don't think it points out a lot of things, but it doesn't solve a lot of things. Quite frankly, if you listen to a lot of the discussion, whether it's on radio or television, it's primarily the anger and blame stage. We need to take personal responsibility. I believe the future of America clearly rests within the faith community. Are we going to realize that we need something that we've only talked about? We need something that we've only read about. We need something that we believe in but have never experienced. And that is, we need divine intervention in the country. Are we willing to pay the price for that? I'd love to hear from you. We're going to take a break. Our phone number is 541-776-5368. That's the local number, 541-776-5368, or toll free. And again, that's 1-800-373-5368. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Well, welcome back. We're doing something we haven't done in a little while, a little open line on this day, and give you a chance to join the conversation or, well, bring anything else to the table that maybe be of interest to you. And we're just kind of drawing a little bit about some of the things that I previously discussed with Dr. Alex McFarland. I thought some of his responses, and in particular, helping us get a better handle on how, as believers, we should look at things and how dangerously close we are to literally stepping and thrashing the Constitution of the United States. We're at a critical moment in this country. There's no question about it. And there's a lot of issues, and they're all serious, and they're all right in our face. And you may be overwhelmed with it. I mean, there's days I turn the news off. I just can't handle it anymore. Maybe you're like that as well. But on the other hand, civic responsibility, I think, is clearly part of our walk of faith as believers. And I would hope that you would seriously look and pay attention as to how close we are on some of these issues. And just by your single act of registering to vote and vote can make a huge difference on some of these things that we are facing. So I'd love to hear from you. The phone number is 776-5368. That's the local number, 776-5368, or toll free outside the immediate area, and that's 1-800-373-5368. Hey, Dick, nice to hear you. How are things in Coos Bay?
Well, they're a beautiful sunny morning down here as usual. It's a little bit cool, but not too bad.
Great, and good to hear you.
We're in for another nice day.
Good, nice to hear your voice. What's up, man?
Well, I just wanted to comment that all of this, what's going on as it relates to the involvement of Christians and the basically the ignorance of so many Christians, I believe, of what's going on around them is the major problem here, in that they cannot relate what it says in the Bible to what's going on around them and what is being taken from them in the governmental takeover of all this. And I blame that partially on the fact that we have very poor leadership in the church body that actually have enough information or enough desire even to delve into the complexities of what's going on and to either stimulate more, like the Grants Pass Constitution class, provide that kind of thing. I think the churches have failed miserably in either stimulating people to understand what's going around them in the biblical context, or they just, they don't want to touch that because they might offend somebody, and that might mean that there was a few less people attending their church. So,
well, I think, Dick, there was a season, and we may still be in it, or hopefully we're at the tail end of it, where there was a period of time where the church was intimidated into the corner of this myth of separation of church and state. And it permeated the boardrooms of a lot of Christian organizations. And therefore, they abandoned talking on issues because anything that was politicized, they just felt like they weren't allowed to talk about.
Exactly.
And the fruits of that now have surfaced to where we still have the numbers, but we're not turning those numbers out to vote to change things.
Because of the ignorance that the numbers have relative to the impact on their lives and their Christianity.
And I think now what's happened, we've reached a point where it is dead serious.
Yep.
And people are waking up, and I hope it does translate into some kind of responsibility.
And I do hope it's not too little too late.
Yeah.
We're right there on the edge.
Because I have to tell you, I have bumped into a lot of Christians, and I say this respectfully, that they have taken on a fatalistic attitude. Why bother? We can't change it. And they have the tendency to say, this is part of the end times, so it's going to happen. So why bother?
Right.
I just don't find the word quit in the Bible. I can't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
It says...
That's when you get to be our age, why, by golly, you're not quitting. You're still actively working. You just...
Yeah, it just...
Your point of what you're trying to do into maybe something that God has you doing.
Well, it says, occupy till I come.
Yeah.
And that either means he comes and gets you by way of the grave or rapture. But bottom line is stay at it.
There you go.
Thanks, buddy. Nice talking to you. All right, God bless. All right, 776-5368. Love to hear from you. Join us, 776-5368. That's the local number outside the immediate Medford area. Toll free, 1-800-373-5368. Hi, Pam. Thanks for waiting. What's on your mind?
Hi, Perry. I just wanted to say that you've got it. It's the Christians are not registered to vote. They're not voting because they feel like who they're going to vote for is not the Messiah, so they're not going to do it, and that's been the difference. We at our church at Trail Christian Fellowship have been doing the voters, stop voters, paying for their abortions, and we've only gotten just a fraction of our members to sign the petition, and it's because they're not registered voters in our church, and that's all across the United States. And we got to start becoming registered and go out and vote.
Well, you bring up a great point, Pam, and that is we have a chance in the state of Oregon to stop taxpayer-funded abortions. And there's a petition out there, and they'll be in churches, and there already are in some churches. And folks, the first thing you got to do is make sure you're registered to vote. Now, if you changed your name, you've moved, you got to re-register. Register to vote and do it right away. And let me ask you this question. Are you aware that you, myself included, that you are paying for 11 abortions a day in the state of Oregon? And we can stop that.
I didn't know that, Perry, till you said it on your radio station, and I was outraged. And that's when I got motivated to help out and do something. But
good.
You've got to be registered to vote. You've got to get in the game.
Thanks, Pam. Keep up the good work.
God bless you.
You too. That is the point. And there is one point that we can perhaps really zero in on. The petition to stop taxpayer-funded abortions in the state of Oregon is out there. And we need to gather all of these signatures. I think it's about 150 some odd thousand signatures between now and Mother's Day. Now, folks, we've done this many times before. We can do it again. Two things have to happen. Number one, you have to be registered to vote. If you've changed your name, if you have, in other words, gotten married, if you have changed your address, if you've changed in any way, you've moved streets, P.O. boxes, whatever, re-register to vote and do it right away. And number two, ask your pastor to allow a petition to be circulated in your church. It's totally 100% legal. You can do that. Appoint somebody. Maybe you can be that point person in your church to have a petition and gather folks before and after service to sign this petition. That will put the measure on the ballot in November, which is going to be a big election cycle because it's midterm elections and there's a lot at stake, especially in Congress. So it's going to be an incredible time to get a large amount of people out to vote. And once that petition is now on the ballot for vote, here's what it does. It will amend the state constitution to stop you and me and our tax dollars for paying for abortions in the state of Oregon. Of all the states in the country, all 50 states, Oregon is at the bottom of abortion restrictions. It's the last one for abortion restrictions in the United States. We have no restrictions on abortions in this state. So the basic fundamental thing that we can do to start to turn that around is to stop our tax dollars for paying for 11 abortions a day in this state. And I hope, I say this with great passion, this is such a simple thing to do for all of us to get involved in. Pastors, don't be intimidated by this. Don't be scared by this. Embrace this. Appoint somebody in your church to do it. Call me or call Brian Platt. We'll come and we'll speak to your congregation about it. Whatever you want to do, we'll do it. This has to stop. We can stop our taxes for paying for abortions in the state. 11 a day. Today, you and I, through our tax dollars, are going to kill 11 babies. Does that disturb you? It should. Let me see if I can squeeze in one more. Betty, thanks for waiting. Quickly, go ahead.
Hi, I represent all those people you bumped into that think the end times are coming and why bother. But that's really not my attitude. My attitude is I've done a lot of things, but I look at what Jesus did when he was here, and all the Jews were complaining that he didn't take over and, throw the Romans out. And I think we should be praying more. I think we should, my people who are called by my name and all that, prayer is where it's at.
Well, I think we are. And it goes back. Remember this, the 3 stages, shock and awe, anger and blame, and then personal responsibility. Has all of this changed your personal prayer life?
Yes, but not really in a political sense, more in a save the souls.
Good.
It's getting later than you think.
Yeah.
Try to save as many souls as you can.
So there you go. So you have changed for the better.
But Jesus never got involved politically.
Oh, I think he did. It's just how you look at it. When he turned the tables over in the temple, what was that?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm not for just hiding your head in the sand.
No, I understand. Hey, thanks, Betty.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. All right, folks, thanks for your involvement in your conversation, and also thank you for your support of this unique media ministry. When you support the Dove, I can't tell you what it's doing behind the scenes. It's just incredible. We can't be on the air without your help, so thank you so much for those of you who have been so faithful with your monthly support. That's making a huge difference. We'll be giving you an update on the building coming up here shortly. There's just a lot on our plate right now. But right now, pray for America. Pray for your church, pray for our communities, pray for our state, and let's be responsible citizens, okay? We'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.